In our headlines on this Monday, June 22nd, here in South Korea, the US and Iran make progress in talks on a peace deal in Switzerland this past Sunday, with technical talks to continue this week. And 2 South Korean vessels passed through the Strait of Hormuz for the first time since the signing of the US-Iran Memorandum of Understanding. Meanwhile, the market value of SK hynix briefly tops that of Samsung Electronics to make it South Korea's most valuable listed company. The first round of high-level face-to-face talks between the US and Iran since the separate signings of their MOU by their leaderships came to a close in Switzerland, with both sharing cautious optimism. Our An Sung-jin has the latest.
The first round of high-level talks between the U.S. and Iran has concluded after 2 intense days of negotiations in Switzerland. Through a joint statement on Monday, mediators Qatar and Pakistan announced the end of talks aimed at implementing an MOU. According to the statement, Washington and Tehran agreed to establish a high-level committee that will provide political oversight for the implementation of the MOU on nuclear issues, sanctions, and other topics. The U.S. expressed optimism, saying the meeting could reshape relations in the Middle East.
The question before us now is how much more can we accomplish together? Can we turn over a new leaf? Can we change relations in the Middle East permanently? Or do we go back to doing things the old way?
Iranian officials also offered a positive assessment, saying the two have made good progress with an understanding on mechanisms to ensure safe maritime navigation.
The issue of the temporary sanctions waiver for oil and petroleum products. The final draft has been completed, and soon we will witness the issuance of this waiver document and the temporary sanctions exemption as well.
One of the key outcomes of the talks was drafting a roadmap for a final peace agreement within the next 60 days. This includes setting up a conflict resolution organization to end hostilities in Lebanon. The two sides also agreed to establish a direct communication channel aimed at preventing accidents in the Strait of Hormuz, also to guarantee the safe passage of commercial vessels through the waterway. The latest developments mark a substantive diplomatic engagement between Washington and Tehran. With technical teams from both countries remaining in Switzerland to continue working-level discussions, these talks could be a milestone toward reducing tensions across the Middle East. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Israel, meanwhile, remains undeterred in its determination to dismantle Iran's nuclear ambitions despite peace efforts between the US and Iran. Our Lee Seung-jae covers its stance.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will not compromise on preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons and will continue military pressure on Hezbollah, even as US and Iranian officials hold talks in Switzerland. Speaking at the Jewish News Syndicate International Policy Summit on Sunday, Netanyahu stressed that as long as he's the Prime Minister of Israel, Iran would not have any nuclear weapons.
No matter what happens in the talks, with an agreement, without an agreement, I pledge to you that Iran, as long as I'm Prime Minister, will never have a nuclear weapon.
Netanyahu said Israel's military campaigns against Iran over the past year were launched to eliminate what he described as an immediate existential threat. He argued that without those operations, Iran could already possess nuclear weapons, adding that Israel intends to preserve the gains achieved through its military actions. The Israeli leader also reaffirmed that Israeli forces will remain in a security zone in southern Lebanon for as long as necessary to protect residents in northern Israel from Hezbollah attacks. He stressed that maintaining Israel's security remains a non-negotiable priority. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said troops operating in southern Lebanon face no restrictions when responding to threats. In a statement on Sunday, Katz said the Israeli military remains free to act against any danger to its forces and emphasized that all of the military's achievements in Lebanon are being maintained. His comments came as U.S.-Iran talks got underway in Switzerland, with Tehran reportedly placing the Hezbollah-Israel conflict high on the agenda. Despite the diplomatic efforts, Israeli officials signaled they have no plans to ease military operations against Hezbollah as troops continue to operate in the security zone in southern Lebanon. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
In the Strait of Hormuz, 2 South Korean ships that had been stranded in the strait have reportedly passed through this critical waterway following the signings of the MOU between the U.S. and Iran. Our Kim Jun-hong has details.
2 vessels operated by Korean shipping companies have passed through the Strait of Hormuz for the first time since the signing of a U.S.-Iran ceasefire MOU. The Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries said Monday that 2 vessels waiting inside the strait had safely transited the waterway. Details of how the vessels made it through the passage have not been disclosed. The ministry said the ships have yet to fully clear the high-risk zone, with neither carrying Korean crew members nor heading to Korea. Under the U.S.-Iran ceasefire MOU, Iran agreed to allow commercial vessels to pass through the Strait of Hormuz with no charge for 60 days. Iran's Persian Gulf Strait Authority then began accepting transit requests, including applications from Korean shipping companies. Monday's departure leaves 22 Korean-operated vessels still awaiting passage through the strait. A total of 135 Koreans remain on ships in the area. Of them, 102 are on Korean-operated vessels, while 33 are on foreign ships. Addressing the issue on Monday, Foreign Minister Cho Hyun said the government will continue efforts to ensure the safety of Korean vessels and crews.
Together with the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries and our overseas missions, we are closely monitoring the situation in the Strait of Hormuz and the safety of our vessels and crews. We continue to coordinate with partner countries to ensure safe navigation for all ships.
He added that discussions are underway to arrange a phone call with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Kim Jun-hong, Arirang News.
And in his address to the media about South Korea's latest diplomatic tour, including its presence at the G7 summit in France, Foreign Minister Cho Hyun reaffirmed Seoul's commitment to international efforts to ensure peace and stability in the Middle East. Our foreign affairs correspondent Osan covers his remarks.
Korea has set up a team to support recovery efforts and expand economic cooperation in the Middle East. Foreign Minister Cho Hyun said Monday that the Foreign Ministry has created a team dedicated to comprehensive economic cooperation with Middle East countries.
Even before reports emerged of a possible U.S.-Iran deal, the Foreign Ministry started preparing proactively for the post-war period. Even during the conflict, our government showed that Korea is a dependable partner that stands alongside Middle Eastern countries in times of difficulty. Building on that trust, the Foreign Ministry will work closely with relevant agencies to further strengthen and deepen Korea-Middle East relations.
A senior Foreign Ministry official clarified that the task force was not established with any specific Iranian reconstruction fund in mind, but rather to explore broader post-war cooperation, beginning with the 6 Gulf Cooperation Council members and ultimately including Iran as well. The announcement came as Cho wrapped up President Lee Jae-myung's first trip to Europe and the G7 summit in France. Korea, he said, continues its push towards G7+ status as it looks ahead to hosting the G20 summit in 2028.
Korea was invited to a G7 summit for 2 straight years for the first time, reinforcing our status as a globally responsible nation pursuing a G7+ role. It also showed the trust and expectations that G7 countries have toward the Lee Jae-myung administration.
While not a G7 member, Korea joined 7 of the 8 outcome documents adopted at the summit's expanded session, covering issues ranging from development and macroeconomic stability to digital governance, health and migration. The president's trip also produced a number of bilateral outcomes in Belgium, the European Union and Italy, including upgrading bilateral ties with Rome to a special strategic partnership. Minister Cho also highlighted E's proposal for a new Asia-Pacific cooperation mechanism to strengthen energy supply chains, saying recent global disruptions have exposed the region's vulnerabilities despite its central role in global trade. The diplomatic push continues this week at the Jeju Forum, where Cho is also expected to meet with the Indian Foreign Minister and take part in discussions on international cooperation. The forum will also bring together 5 candidates seeking to become the next United Nations Secretary General, offering a rare opportunity to hear their visions for the future of multilateral cooperation. Woo Seong, Arirang News.
In other news now, South Korea's exports during the first 20 days of June soared over 60% on year to hit a record high of $62 billion. According to the Korea Customs Service on this Monday, overseas shipments of semiconductors spearheaded the growth momentum as they surged some 188% to reach over $25 billion, accounting for more than 40% of the total exports. Imports also rose about 23% on year. But given the great expansion in exports, Korea logged a trade surplus of $17.5 billion. There was a dramatic development on the local bourse on this Monday. The market value of SK hynix briefly surpassed that of Samsung Electronics to make it South Korea's most valuable listed company. Our Baek Joo-hee reports.
SK hynix dethroned Samsung Electronics to become the most valuable company on the benchmark KOSPI based on common shares alone. Strong institutional and foreign buying supported the morning momentum, driving SK hynix stock to a fresh 52-week high. Fueled by this tech-led rally, the benchmark KOSPI reached a fresh all-time high, closing at 9,114.55. SK hynix closed at a market capitalization of 2,080 trillion won, approximately $1.4 trillion, securing the top spot on the benchmark KOSPI. At the closing bell, Samsung Electronics' market capitalization stood at 2,067 trillion won, or around $1.3 trillion, falling short of SK hynix by $8.45 billion. This marks the first time since November 21, 2000, that Samsung Electronics had slid to the number 2 spot in the domestic stock market by market value. However, Samsung Electronics still maintains the overall lead if preferred shares are included. When including Samsung preferred stocks valued at around 180 trillion won, or around $117 billion, its combined market cap remains higher than that of SK hynix. The historic shift was driven by SK hynix's significant market share in the high bandwidth memory segment as a crucial supplier to NVIDIA.
In particular, reports show that SK hynix has submitted its ADR listing application to the US SEC and is now awaiting approval. This anticipation seems to be drawing much stronger investor interest compared to Samsung Electronics.
In contrast, the impact of the AI boom on Samsung Electronics was relatively diluted. Because Samsung operates a highly diversified portfolio, including smartphone, home appliances, and displays, its overall corporate value responds more slowly to specialized semiconductor trends.
Competition will intensify as each company showcases its technological edge. Following today's reports that Samsung Electronics has shipped samples of its 12-layer HBM, we are seeing an accelerating technology race. Ultimately, however, the most critical factor will be which company NVIDIA chooses as its semiconductor supplier.
This intraday reversal carries significant symbolic weight, signaling a fundamental shift in market leadership. As the industry enters a prolonged AI-driven semiconductor supercycle, the market value battle between the two tech giants is expected to intensify. Baek Joo-hee, Arirang News.
There has been a senior staff reshuffle at the Blue House as the Lee Jae-myung administration delves into its second year at the top office this month. Our Yoon Jung-min covers the new appointments.
In a key shakeup, President Lee Jae-myung has appointed Seongju, former CEO of Yonhap News Agency and a veteran journalist, as his new senior secretary for public relations.
For the second year in office, we have agreed upon the need to bolster and broaden communication with the public.
As for civil affairs and justice, former prosecutor Han Chan-sik has been tapped to lead related policies, including the follow-ups to the Lee administration's prosecutorial reform drive.
He is the right person to complete the separation of the powerful institution based on the recently established Serious Crimes Investigation Agency and the Office of Public Prosecution.
Pharmacist turned labor activist Kim Kyung-ja has been named to lead social policy. Army Commander Kang Gun-jak will take on the role of the first Deputy Director of National Security to bolster self-reliant defense capability and political neutrality of uniformed officers. And current Economic Security Secretary Song Gi-ho has been promoted and named as the third Deputy Director of National Security, in charge of dealing with increasing global uncertainties. The Chief of Staff noted that the new appointments are aimed at speeding up policy tasks for the president's second year in office. More appointments are expected to follow at the top office, as the post of Secretary for AI and Future Planning remains vacant since the campaigning period for the June 3rd local elections. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the U.S. military's terminal high-altitude area defense interceptors have returned to their installation in the southeastern county of Seongju. Now, this is according to Yonhap News Agency this past Sunday. Earlier in March, all 6 THAAD launchers were relocated to Osan Air Base in Pyeongtaek, sparking speculation that the U.S. would transfer the anti-ballistic missile defense system interceptors from South Korea to the Middle East to support its military mission against Iran. Military sources, however, say the launches remained in South Korea throughout the period. China has added 10 American defense-related entities to its export control list as part of countermeasures in response to its trade dispute with the U.S. According to the Chinese Ministry of Commerce on this Monday, the move bans the exports of dual-use goods that can serve both civilian and military purposes. Separately, China's finance ministry banned government agencies from buying products made by 46 American companies, including defense and aerospace manufacturer Lockheed Martin. Earlier this month, the U.S. added Chinese entities to a list of companies it says have links to China's military. Over in Paris, growing interest in Korea's skincare routine is translating into tangible demand for K-beauty products. Now, this is according to my colleague Park Gun-woo reporting from the French capital city.
French consumers no longer need a luxury French label to catch their attention. Increasingly, they're seeking out beauty products marked Made in Korea, waiting in long lines and even rearranging their whole day for them. That was evident throughout Korea Expo 2026, held in Paris last week.
Yeah. She missed her internship to come here, so we are really excited. Yeah. We see like all the Koreans have like perfect skin. Yeah.
That enthusiasm was visible throughout the venue. So here at the K-Beauty Zone, visitors aren't just stopping by for a quick look. They test products, collect samples, and even leave with full shopping bags. K-Beauty here in France is going beyond curiosity and is leading to actual consumer demand. Thousands of visitors spent the day sampling products and learning skincare routines inspired by Korea at hundreds of booths. And exhibitors say the enthusiasm is no longer just about trends.
Many visitors arrive already knowing a great deal about Korean beauty products, so they come to experience them firsthand, often making purchases right there and then.
Beyond on-site sales, organizers are also helping participating companies expand into the French market by subsidizing exhibition costs and arranging meetings with potential buyers.
Each year, more locals and buyers attend the events and get matched with participating companies. Small to mid-sized companies have even gone on to enter major French retail channels, including department stores, helping them significantly expand their business. These success stories continue to grow each year.
Organizers say their goal is not simply to promote Korean products, but to help them become part of everyday life in France, as demand for Korean brands continues to grow. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News, Paris.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. In Colombia, right-wing candidate Abelardo De La Espriella held a narrow lead in Colombia's presidential runoff on Sunday, taking just under 50% of the vote, with nearly 95% of ballots counted. Data from the National Registry Office shows leftist rival Iván Cepeda trailed by roughly 368,000 votes at 48.4%. De La Espriella, who has been endorsed by U.S. President Trump, has promised a tough crackdown on crime, an end to peace talks with armed groups, and a boost to the oil and gas sector. Cepeda vowed to continue the policies of outgoing President Gustavo Petro, including pensions for the poor and a halt to new oil projects. About 400,000 voters cast blank ballots in what is seen as a protest vote. A severe heat wave gripped much of Europe on Sunday, with temperatures approaching 40 degrees Celsius, prompting health warnings, transport disruption, and the closure of hundreds of schools. The surge arrived on the summer solstice, driven by hot air pushing north from the Sahara. France placed about a third of the country on red alert, banned drinking alcohol in public in some areas, and ordered 845 schools to close Monday. Spain put large areas of the country on high alert, with the heat expected to last until midweek. Italy issued red warnings for 8 cities on Sunday, including Milan and Florence. In Cuba, a celebrated hero of the Cuban Revolution, Ramiro Valdez, has died at the age of 94. President Miguel Diaz-Canel announced his death on Sunday. Valdez fought beside Fidel Castro in the 1953 assault that launched the uprising against the Batista government. He was one of only 12 men to survive the 1956 voyage of the yacht Granma that restarted the insurrection, serving as deputy commander to Che Guevara. After the revolution triumphed in 1959, he headed Cuba's security agency and later held posts including interior minister and vice president. He remained active in government into his 90s, focusing on the island's energy crisis. The 5th installment in Pixar's Toy Story series opened with $160 million in domestic ticket sales and $312 million globally in its opening weekend. The estimates on Sunday make it the biggest debut of the year and a franchise record. Toy Story 5 comes 31 years after the original and has far surpassed the $120 million opening of Toy Story 4 in 2019. The franchise had already grossed more than $3 billion before this release. Directed by Pixar veteran Andrew Stanton, Toy Story 5 features returning voices Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, along with a new song by Taylor Swift. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
The skies over Seoul were quite cloudy today. Scattered showers are expected across the capital and the other inland areas of central and southern regions through this evening, with rainfall amounts ranging from 5 to 40 millimeters. Some areas may experience strong gusts, lightning, and even hail. Meanwhile, rain will continue through tonight across Jeollado and Gyeongsang-namdo provinces, bringing 40 millimeters of rain, while the Jeju Island could see up to 80 millimeters by early tomorrow morning. Looking ahead, the weather will remain mostly sunny throughout the week, with early summer temperatures typical for this time of year. Tomorrow morning's temperatures will be slightly lower than today's in most regions. Seoul will start the day at around 19 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon at 16 degrees, Daegu at 17 degrees. Then by the afternoon, early summer warmth will continue across western regions, with Seoul's high reaching 29 degrees and Gwangju 27 degrees. Another round of rain is expected on Jeju Island starting early Wednesday morning. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, so do stay with us. As always, thank you for now.